Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with your 4 o'clock update for the tropics and what's going on. And actually, a lot to talk about. We saw a big change in Marco's track, so I'll talk a little more about that and what we're expecting. So just to kind of start things off, tell you what we're looking at as of right now. This is Tropical Storm Marco, currently just east of the Yucatan Peninsula, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Tropical Storm Laura. Right now, west of Puerto Rico, approaching Hispaniola, expected to bring heavy rain to the Dominican Republic and likely Haiti as well. And I want to start off with showing you the current tracks because they have changed tremendously. Now with Marco, we actually, the original forecast as of yesterday had that storm moving over the Yucatan Peninsula and over a hilly area. As a result, it was expected to weaken and remain a tropical storm, but you can see that it's to the east of the Yucatan Peninsula, and as a result, we're not expecting to see it weaken. We're actually monitoring that storm strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane, and that could happen as early as tomorrow morning around 1 a.m. So keep an eye out for those updates. Now, as that system continues to progress towards the northern Gulf, it continues to strengthen on Monday morning. Winds at about 85 miles per hour, and you'll see in pink we are under a hurricane watch as of right now. So this was just issued with the update from Tropical Storm Marco. Now, as far as Laura is concerned, we haven't seen too much change in that model. I'll continue to play out the rest of the track. We're expecting it to move a little bit to the east of Vermilion Bay. That would put us pretty much on the east of that eye. Not necessarily where we'd want to be, but a lot of areas in the Caribbean right now under tropical storm warnings, and a few areas around Florida, including the Bahamas, under that tropical storm watch. Now, parts of around Mobile and Pensacola currently also under a tropical storm watch, but that is for mainly as a result of Marco. Now, what you see with Laura, that could change. We could start to see some watches and warnings issued, but likely in the next day or two, since that storm is a little further out. And you'll actually notice that these storms come very close to crossing paths, but not at the same time. Around 1 p.m., Marco's in the Gulf. Laura doesn't reach that same spot until Tuesday at 1 p.m. So we're looking at landfall for Marco around 1 p.m. on Monday, and for Laura around 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And unfortunately, both tracks have that storm making landfall over Louisiana, but notice how wide that cone is for Laura. We are still a few days out, and actually only 2/3 of the time the eye is within that cone. So we could continue to see shifts in the tracks as we have continuously seen throughout. Now, I'll show you what some of the spaghetti models are saying. Right now, most models do have that eye for Marco moving from Vermilion Bay through around the Mobile, Pensacola area, and I'll show you what we're seeing with Laura. A little more scattered pattern with those spaghetti models, so don't pay too much attention to where the tracks are, especially for Laura, since we are still a few days out. We've continuously seen that track shift towards the west. We can continue to see it change as well in the coming days. So just to talk about some headlines and what we're looking at: Marco potentially making landfall on Monday, Laura potentially making landfall on Wednesday, both in Louisiana in different locations. But now is the time to prepare, get those storm plans in place, and we always say to prepare for one category higher than what is forecasted. As you saw, those winds are expected to be around 85 miles per hour for both systems before making landfall. That does keep it as a Category 1 hurricane, but not too far away from that 96 mile per hour winds associated with a Category 2 hurricane. Now, right now, we can't say if it will stay a Category 1 or strengthen into a Category 2, so make sure to prepare just for one category above. Now, in terms of development and intensification, the Gulf is hot right now. Waters are close to 90 degrees in some areas, and that's a favorable environment for hurricanes. We also have to talk about wind shear and what we see as far as what's going on a little bit higher in the atmosphere and how that could inhibit or support development. Now, in terms of wind shear, we're really not seeing much going on as Marco continues to progress. So I'll take things back a little bit. There is a little bit of shear in the area, but as we continue to move, that slowly dissipates and moves back. So not much inhibiting the strengthening of Marco, and the same thing goes for Laura. Right now the system's still a little bit disorganized, but in terms of wind shear, not much inhibiting the development of that system. So potentially 2 hurricanes in the Gulf. And I want to show you what some of the models are saying. I'll show you the European model followed by the American model in terms of when we could see landfall. So we've got Marco just off the eastern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula, moving towards the northern Gulf around Louisiana right around 3 p.m. on Monday. So we could potentially see 1 hurricane move through, and we would be on the west of that storm, which is where we'd like to be when we talk about forward momentum and the fact that hurricanes spin counterclockwise. Most of the heavy rain and the impacts are typically on the eastern portion of that storm, east of the eye. So if this track does hold up, we would be on the west, and we'd still see some rain, possibly some winds as well. But Laura is the storm that we're looking at next. And notice this particular model has it making landfall almost at that same point as Marco, around 2 days later. So that's something that we're going to monitor. And once we know the impacts from Marco, we'll know more about what you can expect from Laura. But again, now's the time to prepare. And even beyond that, we're still dealing with some rain in the picture as we head throughout the next week or so. So now is the time to take care of any yard work. If you've got tree limbs that could fall down or anything like that, you want to cut those down right now. Make sure to stock up on water, batteries for flashlights, and just make sure to prepare. Now, talking about the American model, the GFS, showing similar tracks for Marco, it does have it making landfall around that same point Monday, around 10 or 11 a.m., maybe even noon. Then right behind that, not too far behind that, we're monitoring Laura. Now, this particular model has Laura around Vermilion Bay, and that would put us on the east side of the eye, and we could see more impacts. So we're going to continue to monitor the progress and what happens with Laura. Again, we're still a few days out from this system. It's continued to change, and it will likely do so. So I'm not going to talk about the rain totals because right now they're very low, and I don't want to put out misinformation. Now that we do have that hurricane watch in place, we will probably start to see some higher rain totals from the Weather Prediction Center and other models. Right now, that's not what they're showing. They don't have receiving a lot of rain, so in the coming days, those numbers will likely become more accurate, but right now, pretty inaccurate with the forecasts continuously changing. So again, to show you the single view of Tropical Storm Marco and the track that we're expecting tomorrow, becoming a Category 1 hurricane. Right now, winds are at 65 miles per hour. We need it at 75 miles per hour to become a hurricane. It looks like that will happen overnight. Then around Monday, 1 p.m., looking at the potential for a hurricane to make landfall. So keep an eye out for that. This is the immediate threat to our area. We're talking about possibly rain, wind damage, and with the outer bands of any system, there is the possibility for tornadoes as well. And after we receive those impacts, possibly even still on Tuesdays, getting some rain from Tropical Storm Marco, we monitor Tropical Storm Laura and this system making landfall. Now, this is the official National Hurricane Center forecast, and it's more so agreeing with the American model, having that eye make landfall near Vermilion Bay. Again, putting us on the eastern side of that storm. Now, with this system, same impacts, rain, potentially wind, and also within the outer bands, we could even see tornadoes pop up. Can't be ruled out at this time. Rainfall totals are still up in the air, but storm surge is certainly a possibility. So the thing is, if we see rain from, which we will, from Tropical Storm Marco, which could be Hurricane Marco, we'll see rain move in that will likely cause some inland flooding. It could also raise water levels, and once we see Tropical Storm Laura, it's the winds that we're looking at, because the winds could push the water onshore, leading to more flooding and more storm surge in these areas. in addition to the rain that these systems will likely bring, the good news is we're not looking at a system with that stalls. So nothing like Harvey. We're not expecting the system to just stall and dump a bunch of rain. It does begin to move out of our area, and by Thursday at 1 p.m., it is in Arkansas as just a remnant low at that point. So not too much going on. And to show you where we are in terms of storm names, we just crossed off Marco. Nana is the next name, and we've called for a busy season. That's not changed. We could be looking at the Greek alphabet, but right now let's just continue to focus on Laura and Marco. They are the immediate threat to our area, and the most important thing is to prepare, not panic. So refill your emergency supplies if you're out of anything: water, batteries. Make sure that your weather radio is up and running. Also, if you have a generator, check your generator. There's a high possibility of power outages, especially with downed tree limbs. We're dealing with rain from one system, wind potentially from another system. So power outages will be very likely in the coming days. So if you have a generator, make sure that it's up and running. Also, again, plan for a category higher than what the forecast has said. Just yesterday, we were calling for Marco to remain a tropical storm. Now we're calling for it to become a hurricane. So just to be on the safe side, plan for at least a Category 2 storm, not just with Marco, but with Laura as well. Still a few days out from Laura, and that forecast is still up in the air. Things can change. Also, check your yard. If you have any tree limbs that could potentially fall onto your home, you may want to cut those down, move any outdoor furniture indoors as well. And also make sure to have a plan in place for your pets. You don't want to leave them. Also, because we are dealing with the possibility for power outages, if you or a loved one relies on electricity, it's not a bad idea to make sure to get out and maybe head to another location. You can never be too prepared with these systems, and really today is not a bad day to prepare at all. We're sitting at 92, feels like 96. It is hot, but think of this as the calm before the storm. If you want to get out and maybe stock up on some groceries, stock up on water, batteries, etc., it's not a bad day to do so. You will probably see a rush of crowds tomorrow, so if you have the chance to load up on any goods that you may need, now is the time to do so. So again, I just want to show you both tracks of Marco and Laura potentially crossing each other at different times. We're not expecting the Fujiwara effect, which you probably heard a lot about, which is when two storms interact with each other. We are not looking at that due to the timing of both storms and where they'll be. That is a little bit of good news. We're also not expecting a megacane, as some people have been talking about. One storm is not going to overtake the other. They're not going to merge either. So that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the onset of two hurricanes making landfall, possibly here in Louisiana. The cones are getting smaller for Marco. We're starting to understand the system more, and we are just not even less than 48 hours out from this potentially making landfall. A little different for Tropical Storm Laura, but you can never be too prepared again. So I just want to leave you with that. The most important thing right now is to prepare. The next update from the National Hurricane Center will be around 7 p.m., so I'll be doing another Facebook Live and another update for that. The forecast after that will be around 10 p.m., and for that I will just be on NBC providing you with the latest information. So now is the time to put those plans into place. Make sure that you have a plan for all of the loved ones in your home, including your pets. If you are ever forced to send them to the shelter, they will need all of their papers, all of their shop records, so make sure you have everything that you need ready. And again, stay safe. We'll continue to provide you with updates. Our entire team will be here starting next week, starting on Monday. We'll probably be here 2 people at a time providing you with continuous coverage. So please be sure to follow along with updates, and if you have any questions, please send them my way. We will be sure to answer them. Thanks, and have a good afternoon.